Broadcasting from the Symphony Studios in Marietta, Georgia, it's time for the High Tech Women Podcast, brought to you by Symphony Technology Solutions. Listen in as we speak with and learn from inspiring women who have stepped up and stepped into careers in technology and construction. Now, here are your hosts. Hi, everyone, and welcome to the 6th episode of the High Tech Women Podcast, brought to you by Symphony Technology Solutions. I'm your host today, Katie Galley, and in the Symphony studio with me, I have President and Founder of ResMan Property Management, Elizabeth Francisco. How are you doing, Elizabeth?
I'm fantabulous.
Good. That's a good word. That's a good, exciting word. And Elizabeth, I know we were connected by one of our former guests, Felicity Mormon. She spoke so highly of you and you spoke so highly of her. I love it. Women promoting women in this tech space. So super excited to have you on. Thank you for taking the time today.
Well, thank you for inviting me.
Of course. So Elizabeth, just to kind of get the ball rolling and to know your background, can you walk us through your professional journey to date and how you specifically found yourself in this tech industry?
Oh my, we can go way back for that one. So, it's interesting. I would never have imagined over 25 years ago that my career would lead to being launching and founding a software company. Yeah. That was the furthest thing from my mind. I actually went to college for biochemistry, and life circumstances kind of changed things up on me. And I wasn't able to graduate. And I found myself in the multifamily space. And I started off as a leasing agent 25 years ago and worked my way up through the industry. And when I as I'm climbing, right, we're in a position with Sequoia Real Estate Management and Sequoia 1031 Companies, which was a property management company and an asset management company. And I joined the company right at the end of 2006. And I don't know if you were in the workplace yet, but 2007 brought with it the Great Recession. So we really started developing our solution in response to challenges we were having within our own company. And that was really the launching place for us because, we launched an amazing platform. We saw great results with it, and then wanted to bring that solution to market and thought, if it would help us navigate a really tough economic situation and still outperform the market, then we could help our peers do the same. And that's pretty much how we decided to launch ResMan and how we made this leap almost overnight from a property management company into also running a software company.
Wow. That's quite the journey. One, starting from biochemistry, which it seems like that's completely unrelated to multifamily and what you're doing now. So why did you, back you said you kind of made that transition early on. One, what made you decide biochemistry in the first place?
Okay, so that is a story. I don't know if you'll end up using this or not, but it's funny how life throws you curveballs. So I got myself into college, and my mom, so back up a little bit. So I've been working since I was 12, and I didn't have an official job that, where people could pay me on the books until I was 15, but my mom was disabled. So I was really focused in on, earning money and kind of doing things on my own, very independent. So when I signed up for my first semester in college, I didn't have anybody to guide me. So I chose the exact same number of classes I had my senior year of high school. Which gave me 21 credit hours, which is an insane amount to tackle. And one of the classes I had was a biology class, just an entry-level biology class, but I ended up in the one for science majors versus non-science majors. Didn't have a plan on that. It's just kind of the way it happened. But I had a professor that he, I guess, identified that wasn't my major, and I didn't really fit the mold. I didn't really fit in with everybody in that class. I was one of only 4 American females. And he really talked down to me. I'll just call it what it was. It has a good ending though. And he just kind of fired me up to where, he didn't require us to come to class. So I just became hell-bent on proving him wrong because he treated me like I didn't belong there. And that pretty much set the course, I think, for the rest of my career and life from that point forward, because I did prove him wrong. And me and another gentleman who was my lab partner, we were the two odd ducks, if you will. And together we were quite the force, and we blew every single curve. And so we ended up coming back in right towards the end of the semester. I'll never forget it. And we walked in and there was like nobody in the class. There was like 17 people left. So what happened to everybody? And we had labs mixed in with other classes. So we always went to labs. But one of the fellow students said, well, it's you two. You guys blew the curve in this class. So everybody transferred out. And I'll never forget, I finished my exam for that first semester, and Coach Williams, he asked me to come see him. He said, I want to go over your test results with you, schedule time to come to my office. And I did. And to his credit, he apologized to me.
Wow.
He did. That's a true story. He said, I've been scratching my head as I see your test scores and I see your lab work come in. And he's like, why are you not coming to class? And he goes, really, at the end of the day, I self-reflected and realized and thought back to your first couple of weeks. And it was me. I underestimated you, and I didn't treat you fairly. And he said, I apologize. He goes, you're the exact kind of student I want to teach. Like, you didn't even know you were good at biology. And he said, I'd really like another opportunity. And so I took him for three more classes after that.
Wow.
Yeah. I think my last class was, and a group of us went out and celebrated with margaritas.
This is the cherry on top of a perfect story. I love that, man. And I mean, that's crazy to think, one, that he was humble enough to come and apologize to you. But then, I mean, having then an advocate in your corner who really saw you, who underestimated you, but then you proved yourself time and time again. And then we're able to, him come out at the end and have him in your corner. I love that. That's awesome.
He is. He turned out to be one of my favorite people.
I love it.
I didn't cuss him once or twice in the beginning, though.
Yes, which is merited. So Elizabeth, I mean, from there, so diving in, biochem doing super well. And then you said you didn't end up finishing that degree and then transitioned into, you got a job in a leasing office. So what kind of led to that transition? And then why did you take that job in the leasing office?
Yeah, it's, just putting it all out there and being transparent. I became a single parent literally overnight.
Wow.
And with my mom being disabled, there wasn't a cavalry. There was nobody coming in to save the day, if you will. So it was actually a classmate that told me about leasing an apartment at an apartment community, and that she got a discount on rent. And I was just really trying to figure out how to make ends meet with two kids and two little kids. And that's how I fell into multifamily, which is in our space, which I still call that my space. That's not an unusual story. It's a wonderful industry that provides so much opportunity for people who, without having to have that college degree necessarily. And so that's how I ended up in the business.
Man. And I guess you can say you kind of fell into it, but it's really amazing to think about how you entered the space and then where you are now. I mean, really setting yourself on that trajectory to where you founded a company, helped found a software that helps now really specifically in that space that, kind of gave you so much and let you on this journey.
Yeah, I don't know that it fits on a spreadsheet or in a financial statement, but originally the idea of being able to give back to the industry was a big motivation for me.
Yeah. Absolutely. And so Elizabeth, so now founding ResMan, fast forward to today and being a founder and president of this company. So, and you talked a little bit about it already, but can you really dive into what does ResMan Management do, and then what you guys solve and kind of the genesis of this company?
Oh, yes. And talk about ResMan? Are you kidding? It's my favorite thing to do. Simply put, we empower property management professionals to do their best work. I've seen this. When the right technology empowers your employees to succeed, everybody wins. The employees win, the residents that live at the communities win, the management company, and of course the investors who invest in those assets. So, what makes our platform special is that we enable our customers to deliver these exceptional experiences to their renters and their employees. And we do that because we align the technology with what I like to call their natural workflows in their processes. And that's key to them achieving their success. I think that is the magic. Like, you can, I don't know, have you ever rented an apartment?
No, I have not actually.
Well, if, do you have friends that have ever rented an apartment?
Yes, I've been in apartments.
There's a surface level view about what goes in and day out to running a property management asset and a property. And there's so much taken for granted. And I can speak to that because I've hired many a renter in my day to work for us. And they come in really strong, resident activists, but they quickly realize how much work and how expensive it is to run these properties. And so when you can give back and you can take some of that burden off, that gives people a chance to interact with people who live at the community. And at the end of the day, those are people's homes. So that was what I would say is a foundation for ResMan. I mean, when we initially started building ResMan in 2007, right at the start, was, again, I think I already mentioned this, but we had these significant challenges within our company. Really high pro formas we were trying to meet. This was right at the start of the recession. So like a lot of companies, we cut back on staff. We had less revenue coming in. We'd seen that, crunch down. But we still had at the end of the day the same job to perform. And so when we were developing it, it was really trying to find a way to empower our people to succeed regardless of the market conditions. And happily and thankfully that's what we did. And so that's when we catapulted, and now we launched ResMan. That was just, as you mentioned, a complete shift in our thinking, everything about it. Like we started, when we initially launched ResMan, we were still in the property management business model mindset. And I quickly figured out that was not the right fit. We were launching a SaaS company and we didn't know anything about it when we started.
Wow. Man. And to be willing to transition, but then kind of adapting and staying ahead of it to continue to be successful. And so, Elizabeth, then what are the kind of the different verticals, the different aspects of ResMan, and the things that you guys saw? What is the depth and breadth of ResMan within the property management space?
Yeah. So our platform is it basically delivers many of the key and major functionality and capabilities that you need to run an asset. And so, and a management company. So it's everything from the core, which is our accounting, which is everything to do with your GL. And then it's all the operational workflows and efficiencies that are needed to run the asset, maintenance and facilities management. And then of course, what we're very proud of is the resident lifecycle, from the beginning stages of when you're searching and you're attracting that renter until how you take them through living at the property. What does that engagement look like with the office and the team? And, how does that contribute to retaining the business? So residents here, basically it's everything you need to run a property.
There you go. I love it. Tagline.
Well, it's funny. In the beginning, we called the core platform started out being called the Essentials because it was essentially everything you needed.
Wow. I love it. Such a good name. I like ResMan too. I like the combination of residential management.
Well, yeah, it's funny. In the beginning, like I said, that was the name of the software. Now it's the name of the company.
There you go. The growth, the transition.
Yes.
So Elizabeth, your story is truly amazing. And from proving people wrong to being a single mom and transitioning into this life of entrepreneurship, really diving in and solving problems where you saw a need in the industry that you kind of fell into. So reflecting back and also looking forward on your own journey, if a young person, a young woman specifically, was entering into the world of entrepreneurship or tech or property tech, what piece of advice would you offer her?
There's a lot to that question.
Yes. A lot of layers.
I think there's maybe two answers.
Okay.
One is, if you're considering to just make that leap into technology, I would say take it, make the leap. Our story, as I mentioned, is unorthodox in a lot of ways because we don't come from technology backgrounds. We are experienced technology providers today, but that was a learning process. And if I am honest and think back, I will tell you, I know I had preconceived notions about what kind of background, what kind of education you needed to have to be in technology. And it was primarily focused around, you should be a code writer. Well, there's a lot of career opportunities in the technology space. You do not have to be a code writer to get into technology. And so that's one of the things I would say is you probably, as people are listening to this or reading your article, a lot of the skill sets you're using in your current position, I would be willing to bet there is a need for that skill set in the technology space as well. So that's that part of the answer. This other part is if you're seriously considering starting up your own technology solution. And there's an awful lot I could say about that. I mean, we definitely don't have enough time to talk about everything. But I would say that, there's probably three top things, if I tried to limit it to just those three. And first is, regardless of the product that you're launching, you have to know what pain it solves for your target customers, and you have to know why it matters.
Yeah.
You can have a great idea, but it has to have value. It has to have value to someone other than you, right? If you're going to be successful. And I'd say the emphasis on why, right? Simon Sinek's, the emphasis of why, that he did in his TED Talk, and he's got a book about it. Key. That is so important. And if you deliver a solution or a product that delights your customers in a meaningful way, then the success will follow. And what surprised me about this is if you have a solution like that, not only will the business, come, you will actually have the product carry you through some of those tough times and those growing pains. So that would be the first one. You better know your why, right? The second part, I lived and breathed this, I do it to this day, is you have to make a commitment to educating yourself on the vertical you're entering. And this goes back to what I said. Remember, we were from property management. We weren't from SaaS, software as a service. And that learning curve and realization, it was a necessary transition, but I'm not going to say it wasn't a painful transition. And it was really key. And, there's just so much beyond just bringing your product to market about, scaling the business, supporting customers, thinking about where you are today and where you could be tomorrow. The tech debt, there's just so much that goes into it. And the education is key. If you have time for one cool part of our story.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Back in 2013, I realized, so first off, I committed to investing in myself. And so I did. I put in a ton of hours trying to learn everything I could about SaaS. And as I started in this process, I identified that we didn't have enough money. we needed to raise capital. We probably needed to raise it pretty quick because it was just such a different magnitude of what was needed, right? And so through that process, as I came to that realization, I was cold calling. I was literally Googling private equity firms and angel investors and just old-fashioned, pick up the phone and call. And I was fortunate enough to come across a gentleman named Todd Gardner from SaaS Capital. And, I connected with him. And at the time, we didn't fit his investment strategy, which sounds like there's a bad end of the story. But he was so gracious with his time and knowledge. And he spent so much time with me on the phone. And he educated me on the basics of SaaS. It's funny, during the conversation, he was throwing out all these acronyms like crazy. I didn't have a clue what they meant. And then he was talking about these KPIs and giving me advice about, well, as you're working on your pitch deck, you need to be aware of what investors are going to expect you to talk to, right? And you need to be able to speak to these. And here's some industry benchmarks. I've never heard of those either. So he was very gracious. He's the one, he sent me so much documentation. He provided me several resources to help me get my head around the space. And I kid you not, he sent me a glossary of terms so that I could understand what I was reading and what he was saying. And that's a true story, but that's not where the education, it didn't stop there, obviously. I had to continue to grow and, people at our company that came on in the early days, they were taking a leap of faith, and my peers in the industry that were utilizing our product, our platform, were depending on me to be successful too. So the education is key. And I'm not going to try to paint, a rosy picture and mislead you. It is hard. You have to mentally make the commitment to stay investing, to stay in the mindset of learning and education, because you are going to make mistakes. I'm going to tell you right now, you are going to make mistakes. You're going to make mistakes that are going to cost you money and possibly a lot of money. But the more you invest in your education and your domain expertise, and the sooner you do it, the less of an impact that's going to be, right? So, and then I think I know the third thing is really assessing what's your long-term goal. And that was another instrumental moment in my life. This is back in 2013. I came across an article called The Founder's Dilemma. And it was written back in 2008, but it was relevant to me at the time. And I think it's still relevant to this day if you're looking and considering starting your own startup, technology company, or, for whatever problem that you're solving. And in that article, really what the focus was there's, you as a founder have to understand, where do you want to be? What is the return you're looking to get out of all this hard work, all this effort? And you would think it would be really simple, but in reality, there's a struggle between wanting to retain control and wanting to see your product or solution maximize its value. And if you're looking to maximize the value and what that could mean for you and your family, you have to come to grips with sometimes those two things don't align, and actually they contradict each other and can stop progress. If you're in the mindset of and we dealt with this with some of our original founders in ResMan that were here with me. If your main focus is to retain control, but you don't have the knowledge and expertise that's needed to get the business where you want the business to go, you're never going to achieve that. And that's a real struggle. And what I saw and what this article talks about is you will see people make decisions that are aligned to ensure they retain control. And I personally saw it's not always what's best for the business. And so that was a pretty, monumental realization for me, is stepping back and evaluating what I wanted for the company. I'm the sweat equity partner. I wasn't the original equity, and that's my other founders. And I wanted to see ResMan reach its full potential. And so we had to be willing to acknowledge our own limitations. And that's not to say we couldn't be successful on our own, because case in point, we were finding our way through it.
Right.
But now I have the opportunity to reflect and look back over the last 7 years. And I am 100% convinced there's no way we would be where we are today if we had not adjusted our thinking and been open to bringing in people into the company with the right experience and the knowledge to take us to the next level. Mm-hmm. But to get that, we had to give up some amount of control, and we had to give up some of our equity to make that happen. But it was the right thing to do. Mm-hmm. And so if anybody's really looking to start their own business, that's one of the first things I would say is go read that article. Yeah. I'll send you the link.
Yes, please do. I literally was thinking man, I want to read that article.
Yeah, I remember it was so eye-opening to me. And I even remember trying to share it with the other founders of the company. Not everyone responded to it the way that I did.
But the good thing is that you did respond well to it. And it helped you tremendously in changing that trajectory. And then too, kind of, distancing yourself from, of course, what you desire and the mission that you're on, but knowing that ResMan is going to kind of shift and navigate with the times, because like you said, technology can change overnight. So you have to be willing to let go of that control that you think you have over it, because you don't, and then let ResMan kind of go into the space and kind of morph to what it is needed in it.
Yeah. And I think, okay, I lied. I was going to keep it to 3. But the other side of the founder's dilemma is, as you bring people with more experience in, it's hard. And, people have asked me, how have you navigated from where the company was 7 years ago to where it is today, and that you're still engaged and involved with the company to the extent that you are? Because apparently that's not the typical path for most founders. And I think, and I'm not saying this has been an easy I would say an easy process for me, but it's a mindset I committed to, which was I became a change champion. That's what I call it. I realized that as these people were coming into the organization, and our CEO, our CFO, our CTO, they have a wealth of experience. There's a lot of things that they've already lived through that we haven't even got to yet. And having that expertise is so valuable. But there's also a reality that I wasn't a seasoned 25-year, COO of software. I could do that with property management, probably with my eyes closed, but not here. And so I had to basically talk myself through adapting to change and embracing it. And I just looked at this as my opportunity to learn and grow and become a seasoned and experienced and successful software executive. And so that's the journey that I'm on today. And, I'm definitely not the same leader. My knowledge is not the same as it was 7 years ago, thank goodness, for everyone in the company. But I think that's an important part of it too, because, it is hard to let go. I'm not going to say it's not, because it is, but you have to. And if you just embrace it and think about what it's doing to grow you personally and professionally, then it's not as difficult.
Wow. I love that. I mean, just the way you put it. Well, Elizabeth, before we wrap, do you have like a 5th, 6th, 7th piece of advice that you want to put out there? I mean, keep going. It's great.
I was going to say, I could go on and on, but no, I won't do that. No, I was going to say I'll send you something else too. There's another book that I came across later. It's called Traction, Getting a Grip on Your Company. And that was also a helpful book. I wish I had found this back in 2013. I think it would have helped us in the time frame from realizing when we were launching the company to the point where we were getting that first round of investment. So we didn't get our first round of investment till June of 2016.
Wow.
And I think we would have been better positioned had I grasped some of the concepts in that book, which, goes back to what's your long-term goals and really understanding the vision for the company and understanding the value of the goals that you set and what you put in place to measure those goals. And what are those benchmarks? And then also thinking about culture. We're really fortunate. Our story is unorthodox, and we have done really well in the short time frame of 7 years, given other similar sized companies, with similar technology. Our growth we're on a fast track compared to what they saw when they were launching in their first 7 years. So we're outperforming them.
Wow.
And I give all that credit to our team. We have amazing people at ResMan. We call them the ResMan rock stars. They have bought in, they believe in the why. They are the why. I mean, they care about our customers. And so I think don't lose sight of the culture. And that book talks about that as well.
Surround yourself with the right people, right?
Yep, get the right people on the bus. Yep. And then treat them right. I mean, you can get the right people on the bus, but you've got to make sure that you got to dedicate yourself to their success, which will in turn ensure your own.
Yes, that's that feedback loop. That's good. Well, Elizabeth, really, thank you so much for all your insight and just experience and offering it to us today. If someone wanted to learn more about you, learn more about ResMan, where might they do that?
Well, of course, you can find me on LinkedIn, just Elizabeth Francisco, and I will share those links with you. My email, you'll love this. There's an advantage to being employee number one. My email is the letter E, @myresman.com.
Thank you all for tuning in. We hope you enjoyed this episode. To learn more about Symphony, you can follow us on LinkedIn, Facebook, and YouTube at Symphony Technology Solutions, and on Instagram at Symphony Tech Solutions. Never forget that wherever your pursuits take you, cling to the truth that you were absolutely made for a time such as this. See you on our next episode.